The greatest tragedy in a marriage isn't when someone leaves. It's when they stop hoping you'll ever change. When Anthony married Michelle, he believed he was the luckiest man alive. They laughed together, cooked together, stayed up late dreaming about the future. They promised each other that no matter what life brought, they would always choose one another. But promises are easy to make when life is simple. Keeping them is much harder. 5 years passed. Anthony built a successful career. His salary grew. His responsibilities increased. He spent longer hours at work. After work, he met friends. When he finally came home, he escaped into computer games for hours. Michelle waited every evening. At first, she smiled when he came home. Then she simply greeted him. Eventually, she stopped waiting by the door altogether. Whenever she asked him for help, Anthony sighed. "Can't you do it yourself? If you're home first, why didn't you already finish it? I've worked all day. I deserve to relax." Dinner wasn't exactly what he wanted. He complained if the house wasn't perfectly clean. He complained if Michelle wanted to tell him about her day. He barely looked up from his phone. "Can we talk later?" Later never came. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Michelle slowly stopped sharing her thoughts. She stopped asking him to help. She stopped expecting anything. Anthony didn't notice. After all, life seemed peaceful. No arguments, no shouting, no complaints. He mistook her silence for happiness. Till one afternoon, he came home early. Michelle was standing outside their apartment building talking with another man. The man carried several grocery bags. He smiled warmly as Michelle thanked him. Anthony watched from across the street. Something inside him tightened. The next week, he saw the same man again. This time he was helping Michelle carry heavy boxes. A few days later, Anthony noticed him bringing flowers after Michelle had helped organize a neighborhood charity event. The flowers weren't romantic, but the kindness was impossible to ignore. For the first time in years, Anthony paid attention. He realized something terrifying. Michelle smiled more with that stranger than she smiled with her own husband. That night, she barely spoke during dinner. When she finished eating, she quietly washed the dishes alone. Anthony wanted to say something, anything, but the silence between them felt like a giant wall. He suddenly understood. He wasn't losing her in a single day. He had been losing her for years. One careless word at a time, one ignored conversation at a time, one broken promise after another. Unable to sleep, Anthony drove to visit his father. His father listened quietly without interrupting. When Anthony finished, the old man stood up and disappeared into another room. A few moments later, he returned holding an old leather-bound book. On the cover were 4 simple words: "Change within 30 days." Anthony looked confused. His father smiled gently. "You didn't lose your wife overnight. You planted neglect every day. Now you're harvesting loneliness." He paused before continuing. "If you want a different harvest, you must sow different seeds." Anthony opened the book. Inside were 30 daily challenges, simple, practical, difficult. Day 1, prepare breakfast and coffee before she wakes up. Expect nothing in return. The next morning, Anthony quietly entered the kitchen. He burned the toast, made terrible coffee, but he placed everything on the table. Michelle stared at him with suspicion. She simply said, "Thank you." Nothing more. Day 2, cleaned the entire house without mentioning it. His back hurt. His hands were sore. Michelle looked confused still. She remained distant. Day 3, ask about her day. Listen without interrupting. It was awkward. Michelle answered with only a few words. Anthony realized why. For years, he had trained her not to speak. Every day brought another challenge. Leave a loving note. Cook dinner. Wash the dishes. Take a walk together if she agrees. Pray for her. Encourage her. Say thank you. Apologize without defending yourself. Slowly, Anthony began changing, not because the book forced him, but because he finally saw the husband he had become. One afternoon, he saw the helpful neighbor once again. Jealousy exploded inside him. He approached the man privately. "No, you've been helping my wife." Man nodded politely. Anthony clenched his fists. "Stay away from her. If you don't, there will be consequences." Man looked surprised, then quietly answered, "I never meant any harm. I only helped because she always looked exhausted. I hope you take good care of her." He walked away. Anthony never saw him again. For a moment, Anthony felt victorious, but then another realization struck him. The stranger hadn't stolen Michelle's attention. He had simply offered the kindness Anthony had stopped giving years ago. That truth hurt more than anything. Determined never to return to his old life, Anthony unplugged his gaming computer. the machine that had stolen thousands of hours from his marriage. He carried it outside, sold it from that day on. His evenings belonged to his family. Every Friday he brought Michelle fresh flowers, not because the book told him to, because she smiled whenever she smelled them. Then one winter morning, Michelle became seriously ill. A high fever left her unable to leave bed. Anthony immediately rushed to the pharmacy for medicine. For an entire week he stayed beside her. He cooked soup, changed cold towels, made tea. Read to her, held her hand while she slept late every night. He knelt beside the bed. God, I wasted so many years. Please heal my wife. If possible, help her forgive me. Michelle never heard those prayers, but they slowly transformed Anthony's heart. Then came the greatest challenge. Michelle's mother had become critically ill. Doctors offered a special treatment. It was incredibly expensive. Michelle had spent years secretly saving every extra dollar she could, even then. She was still far from the amount needed. Months earlier, Anthony had planned to buy the luxury sports car he had always wanted. The money sat untouched in his account. He looked at the car advertisement one last time, then closed it forever the next morning. He quietly transferred every dollar needed for Michelle's mother's treatment. He asked the hospital to keep his name private. A few days later, Michelle visited her mother. The doctors smiled. Treatment has already been paid. Michelle froze. What? Who paid? The doctors checked the records. We were asked not to reveal the name. Michelle immediately thought of the kind neighbor. Surely it had to be him. After much hesitation, she begged the hospital to tell her finally. One doctor gently answered, it wasn't your neighbor. It was your husband. Michelle stood completely still. Tears filled her eyes. The memories flooded back. The breakfasts, the flowers, the cleaning, the conversations, the medicine, the prayers she never heard, the long nights caring for her. The luxury car he never bought. Everything suddenly made sense. She rushed home. Anthony was quietly washing dishes. She walked toward him without saying a word. She wrapped her arms around him and cried harder than she ever had. So sorry, she whispered. I stopped believing you could ever change. Anthony held her tightly. No, I'm the one who's sorry. I forgot that love isn't something we say once. It's something we choose every single day. From that moment, their marriage wasn't perfect. No marriage ever is. But every morning, they chose each other again because they had both learned one unforgettable truth. Whatever we plant in the hearts of those we love, that is exactly what we will one day harvest. If we plant neglect, we harvest distance. If we plant criticism, we harvest pain. But if we plant kindness, patience, sacrifice, forgiveness, and genuine love, one day those seeds will bloom into a relationship stronger than ever before. Remember, we always reap what we sow. So before it's too late, choose your seeds wisely. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories, and leave a comment below telling us, what lesson did you learn from Anthony's journey?